Hello, everyone. I'm here with John Asher, founder and CEO of Asher Strategies, a top sales training firm headquartered in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Now, tens of thousands of sales professionals all over the world have been trained in the Asher sales method, and John has taken some of the wisdom he imparts to his students and put it into a brand new book called Close Deals Faster, the 15 shortcuts of the Asher sales method. John, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Willie.
Now, before we delve into the new book, tell me a little bit about how you became a sales trainer.
Well, my last job at the Navy, I was a program manager of a $2 billion program. So you're the program manager, job one. You're a buyer, job two. But you're also totally a salesperson. So even though you're a government employee in the Navy, you still have to keep the program sold, fight budget cuts, justify why the program's needed, do ROI studies, come up with some clear differentiators. So I learned early, before I even left the Navy, from some great admiral tours how to sell.
Right. So for you, almost selling became just a natural extension of life itself. You had to sell to do your job no matter what.
Well, if you listen to some of the sages about this, the late great Zig Ziglar would say, we're all in sales. Charles Schwab says the same thing, and Dan Pink in his book To Sell is Human basically said, for professional people now in the U.S., 1 in 9 of us has sales in our title. So we're a sales manager, VP of sales, sales rep, that sort of thing. But the way the world works now in an internet-based global economy, the other 8 of the 9 of us, we're in sales also. We're selling ourselves. We're selling our ideas. We're selling to the boss. The boss is selling to us. We're selling to the bank to get more capital. The banks are selling to us to get our business. So when you think about it, we're really all in sales.
That's right. It's a good point. Okay. Now, going back to the book, there's no shortage of books about selling. In fact, you yourself has stated that you have studied more than, I think, over 200 of them over the course of your career. So what sets this book apart from the others?
It has 2 things that most others don't have. Well, really 3 things. One is I've taken the best ideas from all the 20 global sales training institutes, and as you mentioned, actually about 300 books on sales over many, many years, extracted the best ideas, gotten rid of the overlap, and then turned it into a set of selling skills that are needed to make sales happen. And so it's the best ideas from Sandler, from Carnegie, from Miller Heiman, from all the rest, and it's all just public information. It's just a matter of organizing it. Then the second thing we've done that's different from everybody else is, for the first 8 of the skills to get a new customer, we have developed what are called 15 shortcuts that'll make sales happen faster. And a couple of examples would be there's a website with a downloadable app called Crystal Knows, meaning Crystal, the woman, knows you. And so if you go to Crystal Knows and put in the name of the buyer and the company they work for, using smart software, starting with LinkedIn, it'll come back and show you which of the 4 personality styles that person is, how to write an email to them, how to deal with them if you meet in person, what they like and what they don't like. In other words, do they like details or not, and that sort of thing. So it really gives you the information you need to operate at the highest level of emotional intelligence when you're meeting a new person. So that's one of the 15 shortcuts, just a brilliant app. Then the third difference is, in the last 3 years, there's been just an explosion of new ideas from the neuroscientists based on multiple studies that show us how our old brain, the decision-making brain, makes decisions. And so there studies at Harvard and other universities where buyers wear these functional MRI machines. It's like a helmet with a small MRI machine. And so you can see exactly what happens in people's brains when they're asked to make decisions or sales techniques are used on them. And so that, again, just an explosion of these studies. And so we now know that that all decisions come from the old brain, not the rational brain. And you may have heard this term at some point in your life, and that is we decide on emotion and justify with logic. Right? That saying's been around forever. The trouble with the saying is most people don't really understand what it means or how to practically apply it. And so an example would be if your company and two other companies are vying for a big opportunity with a buyer of a bigger company. And in the buyer's mind, all three companies, including yours, have great customer service, good quality, reasonable prices. So in the buyer's mind, all three companies are essentially tied for first. Which one does the buyer choose? And, of course, the buyer's going to choose the one that they like the best, the salesperson they like the best, the one that's built the strongest emotional connection. So what it basically means is you've got to have the right stuff, but that isn't good enough. You've got to also make the emotional connection. Now, if you don't have the right stuff, it doesn't matter if you have the emotional connection because the buyer's not going to choose you. So they buy on emotion and justify with logic. And so if you buy that, and we now know that for sure by some of these later studies, for example, Dr. Damasio, University of Lisbon, now Southern Cal, studied people in mental hospitals who have lost their emotional or old brain because of car accidents, injuries, or disease, tumors, and those people can't make a decision. They can't decide whether to have a ham or a turkey sandwich for lunch. So we've proven now that all decisions really come from the old brain. And with these latest studies, we know there's 6 stimuli that will wake up the buyer's old brain. And so the elite salespeople now, maybe the top 2%, understand those 6 stimuli, know how to get the buyer's old brain to wake up. And also, related to that, there are about 50 what are called cognitive biases, rules of thumb, shortcuts, heuristics, that sort of thing, that also totally apply to sales and marketing. So that's our third differentiator. We're really the only sales training company that's taken all that information from all these neuroscience studies, boiled it down, made it simple so we can all see how to apply it.
And buyers of your book will get the skinny on all of this, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty broad field, but I know that one of your strengths is kind of condensing large bodies of data into its major importances.
You look at if you look at the why for our company, the old Simon Sinek thing, but every company can explain what they do, how they do it, but it's very difficult to explain why you do what you do. And if your why connects with customers and they like your why, then you have a much better chance of getting a new customer. So our why for our company is to make the complex simple.
Oh, got it. That's perfect,
and
actually.
That's essentially what we've done with the 10 skills, the 15 shortcuts, all this neuroscience information, simplify it so people can use it. Now, it may sound like it's simple to simplify it, but it's actually hard to simplify it.
Right.
For example, I think it was Will Rogers who would say, if you want me to give an hour talk, I'm ready now. But if you want me to give a 5-minute talk, I need a week to get ready.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Okay, so the book is built around these 15 shortcuts, which you've derived over I guess nearly 30 years of experience as a sales trainer. If you had to decide on only one of these 15 shortcuts in your book to share with a salesperson who wants to improve their performance, what would it be? Which one of those 15? You had just one.
Sure. When one of the most impactful shortcut is called perfect listening. And it's actually the chapter that you can download for free if you want to check out the book and read that chapter. And so if you go back to the old brain stimuli, the first stimuli is the old brain is me focused totally on itself. It's true for all of us, right? We're worried about our own safety, our own success, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple of practical applications of it. One is if you watch most salespeople give a presentation, the agenda sounds like this. Here's our objective. Here's a vision of our company. Here's a picture of our new building. Here's a picture of the CEO. Here's a list of our 7 integrated IT technologies. Let's start with IT technology number 1. So what do you think, Willie? Is the old brain awake yet?
I lost you about 20 minutes ago.
Exactly. Old brain's asleep.
Right.
So because you're not waking up the old brain, that's me focus. So when you watch the great salespeople give a presentation, their first slide or flip chart or TV screen, whatever it is here's our understanding of your needs. Now, if you've done a pretty good job of this by your research and your inside coach and that sort of thing, these functional MRI machines show that will cause, in 95% of the cases, an immediate conversation. So now we got the buyer's old brain talking about their issues. And after that conversation has gone on for quite some time, how many of the 35 slides in your slide deck do you have to show? Well, hope it's kind of obvious. You don't have to show too many.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of a practical application of the me focus stimuli that the old brain's all about. Another example would be this. If you can get the buyer to talk first and talk about themselves and their issues as opposed to you talking, more cortisol is released in their brain than is released in lovemaking or having a great meal. So get somebody else to talk about themselves, the old brain totally awake, excited, cortisol released, couldn't be happier because they're talking about themselves and their company and their issues. So this leads to how do you be a perfect listener? So you can take advantage of this stimuli. Well, the elite salespeople will use 3 techniques to be the perfect listener. First, totally focus 100% on the buyer's point of view, the buyer's needs, issues, concerns, that sort of thing, before you get talking about what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Second, ask permission to take notes and take notes. And third, once you think you really understand what the buyer needs, summarize and feed it back to get agreement. And at the end, the buyers will not feel like they've been sold to whatsoever. They'll feel like it's been a total collaboration. And you've taken advantage of the first of the 6 whole brain stimuli. Get them talking about what they need, what they like. So that's probably the most impactful of all the 15 shortcuts.
Gotcha.
In fact,
So
we've trained to give you a little data on this. We've trained with 2,500 companies over many, many years, most of them Vistage companies. So they're in the small cap market in the U.S. And so we'll get data, back after the training's over to see how it went and what the impact was and that sort of thing. So if you take salespeople who have been doing okay, but they haven't been asking permission to take notes, they haven't been summarizing and feeding it back to make sure they really understand, and they start doing it, you see this 30% increase in sales just from that one shortcut. That's one example of one of the top shortcuts. Be the perfect listener.
That's great. Okay, now you've had a long career in sales. You've had, I'm sure, a few ups and downs, like anyone else in this profession has had. If you could have one do-over, one moment that you could do over as a salesperson in your history, what would it be?
OMG. If I'd have known what I know now, back when I was a young man, I would have sold so much more. I guess probably my biggest mistake was when I was a young man getting into sales right out of the Navy. I just kind of did it by what I'd learned from, mentors, went to a training class or two, trial and error and all that sort of thing. So if I can look back, I would have read a sales book a week until I really got it. Because now sales is not all about an art. A lot of it's based on science, this neuroscience stuff.
Right.
A lot of the fundamentals, are really been researched since 1980. So a lot of this information has been around for a long time. It's just in the last handful of years with these functional MRI machines, we can really prove it from a scientific standpoint. So sales is now kind of half art, how to use your personality, and half science. And so back then I had no idea about the science, didn't even know it was important. I should have started reading a book a week on that stuff. Then I'd have sold a lot more, Willie.
Well, that's good. It's good advice for everyone getting into the profession now. There's always been a lot of talk about sharpen the saw, but it's kind of like, well, what do I sharpen the saw with? And I guess what you would tell people now is get more into the science aspect of sales, and really understand how the mind works. Because I think that's where this is more heading. It kind of has an analogy with data science, whereas before marketers used to kind of fly by the seat of their pants, go with their gut instinct, and data science is, and the big term nowadays is big data, is kind of showing them that might not be the best approach, and a lot of their gut instincts are actually dead wrong. And if they just look at a scientific approach of the data, they'll make better decisions when selling to people. So I think this is kind of fascinating, and they kind of tie in together.
Oh, I absolutely, totally agree. So you look at them, all these stimuli I've been talking about apply equally well to marketing. And
right.
When you mentioned big data, if you take big data, market automation, and predictive analytics, now marketeers, there's no excuse not to know exactly what to do from a marketing standpoint.
Right.
As you say, the data is all there now. We can predict. In fact, I've heard recently that Amazon is going to start sending people things that are prime customers, just because they have figured out that you need it.
Wow.
And then once you get it, if you don't want it, you can send it back they'll pick it back up for free. That's how sophisticated it's gotten. And when
wow.
you think about it, my wife, everything we buy, she buys on Amazon. And, my favorite stores are Nordstrom's Rack and Costco and Whole Foods. That's all I go to. And she orders everything on Amazon. So it does not surprise me whatsoever that Amazon is going down that road. So
sure.
Imagine they start sending you stuff that you haven't even ordered because they know you need
That's
it.
fascinating. Well, that's where we're heading. And your book is kind of a primer on that. I've read it, and it's efficient. It's cutting out a lot of the guesswork. It's a lot of it is expressed in different ways, in different volumes. I've been a salesperson myself for like I said, we're all salespersons, so I guess since birth, but as a profession, professionally probably about 20, 30 years now. And these concepts aren't all totally new, but the way you present it is very streamlined and very applicable.
Yeah. That's what we're after. What's the practical application? How do we use this on a daily basis?
All right. So now getting back to this book, what else do you think people should know about it? What goals do you have for people who buy it? What else do you want to say to our audience about Close Deals Faster?
Well, it's really oriented mainly for salespeople who are selling business to business, one business to another, or business to government, or actually business to high net worth individuals. Okay. So the sales cycle times for those three groups it's one of the Harvard's grouping, of sales. So the process for those selling to those three groups is pretty much the same. And so if that's the business salespeople are in, as opposed to, retail or car sales guys and that sort of thing, then this book is just totally tuned for those salespeople.
Okay, so it's more for the long sales cycle, more sophisticated offerings, rather than the immediate gratification retail consumer, which is a different science in itself. Okay, good. All right. And if people have any questions about the book or your sales training program, where should they go?
Just go right to our website, www.asherstrategies.com. You can order the book. You can download that one chapter on perfect listening. And, of course, we have nationwide sales training classes all over North America on a continuing basis. If they want to go to one, they can see where they are. Or if they want training for their sales force, then we have a number of trainers who come out and do it.
Awesome. All right, thanks for your time, John, and thank you all for listening. Please go to Amazon and check out Close Deals Faster, the 15 Shortcuts of the Asher Sales Method. It is available for purchase right now. And if you want to dive deeper into the subject of sales, please visit AsherStrategies.com. They have a lot of resources to help increase your business. Now, go out there and make some sales, everybody. Goodbye.